prophet stood at the edge.
Don't jump!
His name was drawn. Again, and again, and again. He didn't speak. He jumped. From the deep, a creature rose, sent by the command of Allah. This is Quran, a prophet left without permission, a people turned back just in time, and Allah wrote a moment that would never be forgotten. This is the story of Yunus, alayhi as-salam, swallowed by the sea, saved by the mercy of his Lord. If stories like this awaken something in you, subscribe to Qasas Religious Stories. Let's begin. The story of Yunus, alayhi as-salam. Yunus, alayhi as-salam, was one of the prophets of Allah. He was from the descendants of Yaqub, alayhi as-salam, from the family of Yusuf, alayhi as-salam. He was one of the children of Israel. His full name was Yunus ibn Matta. He came from a people who had knowledge of the message. They knew about revelation. They knew the names of the prophets, but they had turned away. They followed the words, but not the commands. They spoke of truth, but didn't live by it. And among them was a man who remained firm. Yunus, alayhi as-salam, worshipped Allah. He didn't follow the crowd. And then Allah chose him. He was sent with a message to a people who had forgotten everything, to the city of Nineveh. Yunus, alayhi as-salam, was a prophet. He was sent by Allah to a city called Nineveh. It's near Mosul in Iraq. It was a large city. Thousands of people lived there. They had homes, farms, markets, and roads. They were strong in number, but they didn't worship Allah. They worshipped idols, stones, shapes of animals, and made-up gods. They bowed to them, spoke to them, prayed to them, and they didn't want to hear the truth. Yunus, alayhi as-salam, came with a message. Worship Allah alone. Turn back from this. Leave the idols. Stop doing wrong to each other. That was his message. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for power. He just gave them the truth. Some listened for a moment, but most didn't, and they laughed and rejected him. But he didn't stop. He kept calling them, day after day. He told them about what happened to the nations before them, when they rejected the truth. He told them that the punishment of Allah is real, and still, they refused.
Enough of your lies, Prophet!
Some became angry with him. They said, "You're disturbing the people." But he still kept going. He had patience. But after so many years, he lost hope in them. He believed they would never change, and he made a decision. He left. He didn't tell the people goodbye. He didn't wait for any new command from Allah. He just turned and walked away. That was the mistake. No prophet leaves until Allah tells him to leave. But Yunus, alayhi as-salam, walked away thinking they were finished, thinking his job was done. He left them behind and set out on his own. The people continued with their lives. They didn't know what was coming. And Yunus, alayhi as-salam, kept walking until he reached the sea. When he arrived, he saw a ship. The sailors were getting ready to leave. They were loading goods, tying ropes, checking the sails. He asked to come on board. They looked at him. He had no luggage, no group, but they let him in. The ship was full. Men, animals, heavy bags, but they made space. And then the ship left the shore. Then it began. The storm hit. The ship rocked hard. Waves smashed into the sides. The men began to panic. They threw cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But nothing changed. The storm grew worse. One of them said, "This storm isn't natural. Someone on this ship is being punished by Allah." They agreed to draw lots. They drew a name, Yunus, alayhi as-salam. They were surprised. He hadn't spoken much. He caused no harm. They drew again, same name. A third time, still him. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for mercy. He stood up, and he threw himself into the sea. The water took him in, but he didn't drown. Allah sent a great creature, a fish from the depths, and it swallowed him whole. He was alive, inside the belly. He couldn't move, he couldn't see, he couldn't hear, but he was still breathing. He didn't complain. He didn't ask to be rescued. He remembered what he had done, and he made dua. He said, "La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka, inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin." There is no God but you. You are perfect. I was wrong. He kept repeating it. The angels heard. Allah accepted. He told the creature, "Rise, bring him to land. Do not harm him." The fish swam upward. It reached the shore and released him. His body was weak. His skin was damaged. He couldn't walk. He couldn't sit. Allah caused a plant to grow beside him. It gave him shade, kept the insects away, and he stayed there, quiet. He waited until he was strong again, until Allah gave the next command. Allah told him to go back to the people he had left. While he was gone, Allah showed them the signs of his punishment. The sky above them filled with dark clouds. The clouds spread until the whole city was covered. The people looked up and said, "This is what Yunus warned us about." Fear reached their hearts. The leaders called the people together. Men, women, and children came out of their homes. They left their animals, their markets, their work. They cried. They begged Allah for forgiveness. They said, "We were wrong. Forgive us." And Allah, who hears every voice, accepted them. The dark clouds moved away. The punishment was lifted, and they were saved. Then Yunus, alayhi as-salam, returned. The people were not the same. He saw no arrogance. He heard no rejection. He saw believers, and he stayed among them. They were the only nation in history that rejected a prophet, then believed, and were saved. And there's a reason this story was told. It's not about the fish. It's not about the storm. It's about the mercy of Allah. A prophet left too soon. A people turned back just in time. And Allah forgave them both. That's the lesson. Never stop calling. Never stop turning back. And never believe you're too far to be forgiven. If this story moved you, share it. And subscribe to Qasas Religious Stories for more true stories of the ones Allah chose.